Can you hear us now or no? Can you hear us now? Hello? Abs, can you hear me? No sound? Hello?
You know what your input is set to?
I am worried we're going to get a massive amount of feedback.
Yeah, if the sound comes through the laptop, then you will get feedback. Yeah. Okay, so you see the MacBook Pro microphone. Where is this feeding to?
It's actually not plugged into the system.
Oh.
So
you have.
And the last time we did it, it caused feedback.
Okay. Is there a way to
Just hold on. Thank you. I appreciate your help, but I know. I got you. You cannot hear me? Y'all can't hear me online? Yes, no?
Can you hear us here?
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hello? Now you're saying you can hear me? Okay, but I think they're hearing a laptop sound. Go ahead and mute that because can you hear me now still? Okay, you can still hear me. Okay, I think they're hearing through the laptop, which is fine. Now that we have all that figured out, thank you. What's that? So the live stream is saying they can't hear anything? Is there anybody watching the live stream?
It's working.
Working.
All right.
Okay. Ooh, for all of the tech checks that we did.
No plans survives.
It's never just.
It never goes the way that it intends to go. Anyway, welcome to everybody online. Welcome to everyone in the room. Appreciate you very much. I'm Eli Rigatuso. I'm the curator of the show that's happening over in the other building here. From Omaha, Nebraska. My Menominee name is Wescuape. Loosely translated in English, that means he sits and listens good. He does good things. I am part Menominee, Ogallala, Omaha, and Lakota. Lots of family history there. We won't get into that though, because we have a lot of ground to cover with the art show, right? Ren was going to introduce me, and then I just railroaded right on through. This is Ren Harper from GFOS. Is there anything that you want to say about the Great Plains Action Society before we get started here?
I did want to just first thank you all and let everybody know, all the artists and you, especially Eli, who curated and brought this to us. What an honor it is for us to host the show, especially right now. And I also want to acknowledge that visibility comes with risk. And we so appreciate the courage and creativity and beauty that you're all sharing with us. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And I can't wait to hear this conversation, be a part of it.
Oh, I'm not the only emotional person in the room. Because usually I am. All right, so here's how we're going to start this. I'm going to just try to tell you a brief story about how the show came to be without getting too emotional, which isn't possible. So I'm just going to kind of let it happen as it happens, okay? So I went to go see the movie Wicked with a friend of mine. This is not just any friend. I've actually known this person for like 52 years. They moved into the house across the street from ours in 1972. And 2 years later, when I was 10, I started babysitting her and her little brother, who was an infant at the time. I do recall the only time I babysat, though, was when mom was home, so that, not their mom, but my mom, so that if there was a problem, all I had to do was call mom, who was across the street. And funny little side note, I still remember the phone number we had. Most of the people in the audience probably understand that. Landlines. Anyway, so Stephanie and I, and Stephanie is actually one of the artists, her piece is hanging in the show, but before the movie started, so in 2010, we became Facebook friends. I hadn't seen her in a number of years because my family moved away when I was in 6th grade. And, fast forward to 2010 and I see her pop up on my Facebook page, and yes, LGBTQ plus folks actually have judgments that go off in their brains when they see people from their past. And I thought, well, she's a white woman. She's married and has 2 kids. Like, I just had all these judgments, and she's beautiful, right? She's a very attractive human. And I was like, yeah, I don't know if I should send her a friend. But I went ahead and did it anyway. And much to my surprise and happiness, she accepted. And we started having conversations, and she noticed that I actually, at the time, was in a committed relationship with a woman. And I was identifying as a woman at that point in 2010. Fast forward to 2015, at the tender age of 50, I realized that I was something more than that. And that's when I came out as trans. A lot of that had to do with my learning about what all those letters and the initialism meant. Because I didn't take the time. In all the years that I've been advocating for this community, I just saw them all as important parts of. And when I started to take the time to learn about it, I found myself in a different letter. Part of that also came after losing my cousin to suicide. Because I really, really loved him. And I felt like he really struggled with more than what he let us all believe. I used to call him Tina. He loved it when I called him Tina. So in part, a lot of what I'm doing right now in being my true self, my full self, is thanks to Tim. And my way to honor him and his legacy. So I'm sitting in the movie theater with my friend. I had been out as trans for a while because, now it was 2021, 2024 is when Wicked came out, I think. The first one. And, the movie theater's doing its little running through ads or whatever, and we're just kind of sitting there, and she says to me, I have a question for you. She goes, I hope it's okay if I ask. I was like, well, why not? Like, I'm an open book. I thought she was going to ask a question about me, but actually, she didn't. She said, she goes, I'm of that age where older women start to have menopause and deal with things and, and like hot flashes. And she's like, I don't know if you're familiar with that. And I said, well, I kind of sort of am. And she says to me, she says, I got to a point where I felt like my body was no longer my own. And I didn't understand what was happening. She goes, is that gender affirming care? And I said, yeah. And right as I said yes, the movie started. So we were like hanging in suspension of what's going to come after. So the movie obviously is full of so many themes, so much beauty, so much heartache. And one of the scenes that got me the most was when the animals started to lose their voices. It really struck me deeply because I've always connected with all beings. And after the movie, we just sat there because I was crying. She had already seen it 4 times. This was her 5th time. So any emotion that would have come up for her had already passed. But she says to me, she says, are you okay? Do you want to talk? And I'm like, the animals losing their voice just reminded me of being a 5-year-old who was told that he wasn't a boy. Because that's how old I was the first time I uttered the words other than I'm a girl. I said it to my mom, and she said that wasn't possible. But it was 1970. What else could she have done at that point, right? It wasn't like it is today. You can't just Google it. So my mom and dad did the best they could with what they had. So Stephanie says to me then, she says, wow, she goes, I don't understand why the world right now is making such a big deal about gender affirming care. Because everybody accesses it, right? I'm like, yeah, pretty much. There's all kinds of products on the market today for cisgender men with low T and losing their hair and, wearing the clothes that we're even comfortable in, right? Being able to express ourselves in the ways that make us fully authentic and expressing who we are. And she said, yeah, she goes, I'm just going to start telling people that I'm accessing gender affirming care. I was like, good on you, girl. So we left the theater that day, but I was processing it because we actually talked more about some of the themes in the movie. I went down a deep Google dive about the movie, come to find out that one of the writers actually did create Alphaba reflection of a trans person's life. So written into the character. And of course, that was the character I identified with, right? I always felt like I stood out like a sore thumb. I just wasn't green. So a few days go by and I'm processing this experience and I'm thinking about this conversation. And I all of a sudden thought, you know what? Artwork. And part of that came out of the fact that I completely forgot that I had saved every single syringe that I had used to inject myself with tea over the past 10 years. I had all the sharps containers. I never closed them up and sealed them. I just put them under the cabinet in my master bathroom. And I just opened the cabinet one day and there's all these sharps containers. And I was like, I need to do something with these. So then I thought, I'm going to do an art show. And initially, it was going to be all about me. And I was going to create a piece of art, one piece for every year that I had been on tea. Well, 10 pieces of art in that little bit of a time window that I had because I wanted to host the show in August of 2025, which would have been my 10-year tea anniversary, wasn't going to happen. But I did call Stephanie and I said, hey, I have this idea. You're an artist. Would you be willing to contribute a piece as a cisgender artist? I'm not going to pay you for it, but I am going to take the money that your piece will make and give it to a trans, non-binary, two-spirit, or gender non-conforming artist. Are you okay with that? She's like, oh my God, absolutely, yes. Didn't even hesitate. So then I was like, okay, that was an easy yes. So I started like calling up some of my other cisgender friends, like, hey. And I did ask all of them to provide something that would be their expression of gender affirming care. Interestingly enough, though, like Bart Vargas, for example, if you're familiar with Boob Ross now, that was a piece that he had done for something else. And he said, oh, I have the perfect piece for the show. And when he brought it over to my house, I died because I was like, oh my God, Boob Ross is perfect for this show. And then he also contributed another piece that said, we are always targets. It was a collage piece. He's actually known for his collage work. So that's how the Gender Affirming Care Art Show came to being. And then I started looking at my trans, non-binary, two-spirit friends and going, hey, you know, y'all want to be a part of the show. I think some of the people that I asked who actually didn't accept the invitation thought I was like making it up. You know, like there were people that I was like, hey, you want to contribute a piece? Like, yeah, okay, sure, right? Because they couldn't quite visualize it. But the people who did accept and say yes and were able to visualize it are the ones that showed up. Their pieces are now there. And I think it's extraordinary. There's a story behind every piece. And I'm not going to waste a bunch of time telling the stories because you have to experience the art. And I want you to meet our guests who are both in the room, the artists here, and the artists that are online. So I'm going to start this conversation now with that information. And I'm just going to throw it out. I'm going to start with Abs. Abs, if you could introduce yourself, tell us your pronouns. Tell me why you accepted the invitation to create a piece for the show.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. My name is Abs. I use they, them pronouns. Yeah, when Eli pitched it, I was instantly in. I thought it would be beautiful to have so many gender non-conforming, trans, two-spirit artists all in one place. A beautiful display of community and of personal expression and storytelling. So that's why I jumped into this project, and yeah.
So Abs, tell them a little bit about your piece.
Yeah, so my piece is, I call it Human. It's the rug with a portrait of myself in drag that I tufted. So I got into rug tufting in the last year and fell in love with it. I love how tactile it is. It makes me feel alive in the same way that expressing myself authentically with gender affirming care does. Drag, as a kid, I loved playing dress up and trying on different clothes and exploring new sides of my personality through that. And as I started to do drag, I noticed that same sense of that childlike wonder and joy come back. I felt like it's been a playground for me to explore my identity further. So I knew that for this project, that's what needed to happen, and bold and colorful, because I mean, we're all queer, so had to put that color out there into the world. But yeah.
I love that. I love that. Bold and colorful. You are exactly that. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to save Unity and Tammy for last. I'm going to turn the camera here so y'all can see a close up of Pave in that fabulous jacket. Pave, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us why you accepted the invitation to participate in the show.
Hello, Jack. Hello, folks. I go by Pave.
My apologies. My voice is shot. I have been at Pride the last 2 days in a row and loud and having such a fun time in Lincoln. I'm from Lincoln. I grew up in Crete, Nebraska, a very small town, little southwest of there, about 25 miles. I accepted the invitation to this show because art has always been my outlet for my soul, one way or the other. Whether that is through performance art, because like Abs, I also am a drag entertainer. I don't know if you could tell. I've always been an artist my entire life. My mother is an accomplished acrylic painter. She's not someone who exhibits anywhere. She chooses to keep her art very private. I am the opposite. I rather like showing my art off, and so the opportunity to be seen for that was so important to me. It's been a long time since I have done a piece of art, at least before Eli asked me. It had been quite some time since I had done a piece of art that was for something other than, let's say, like commercial reasons. Okay. I am part of a commercial gallery back in Lincoln, so I'm always sort of like, well, this is fun. It's kind of expressive. I'm enjoying myself, but at the end of the day, I would like to move some art and make a little bit of money about it. So when Eli asked me to do something that spoke to me, I was in, and it did take some haranguing to actually get me to do it. Come on. And to be honest, that piece came to fruition about a week or so, a couple days before the actual show itself. I do paint very quickly in general. This jacket, the painting on it took a couple of days as well. And at some point, I'll stand up and turn around and show it off. But gender affirming care and my identity as a trans man is something I had to come into relatively late in life, not nearly at the tender age of 50. Mind you, I was about 31, which was all of 4 years ago. And before that, my experience with gender expression, the earliest thing I can think of with my own journey was when my cousin and I would do these little skits. And her grandfather, my great uncle, would use the camcorder in the 90s and do home movies of us. And my favorite role, we did this whole Cinderella thing, and I got to play the prince. And I couldn't explain at the time what it felt like to be the prince in those roles. It was very validating and affirming, and it was right in a way that I never understood until I was an adult, much older. Coming into finding out what being transgender was happened in my 20s, I did not apply it to myself. I actually ended up applying it and helping my first spouse figure out that she was a trans woman because she was very open. We were very close as far as like talking about those sort of things with each other, and some of the things she was saying about her body, about characteristics of herself. I came across a Tumblr post from another friend of mine about the word dysphoria. And I said, what's that? So of course I go and Google it because why not? And that just led me down the rabbit hole of understanding what being transgender was. And I brought it to my spouse at the time, and she was, her first reaction was, I mean, even if it's true, there's nothing I can do about it and things like that. But inevitably, she left the military and came out. Unfortunately, about a year after she started hormones, 10 years ago this month, she left the world on her own terms. And June has always been kind of a rough month for me in that regard. I can say this is the first year in June that I've been able to find happiness and peace for myself after that. And I know that this world, if she could be here now, it would be harder for her in some ways, but I think if she could have just seen this community that was here waiting for her, because she was so early in her journey. So thank you, Eli.
Thank you for sharing that. And now,
You said you were the only one emotional.
your piece Your piece, I see the prints in it.
Yeah.
I see the prints in it. The golden, shimmering, shining prints that you are.
And that's where my drag comes from entirely too. And drag is one of the most incredible things I could have ever started doing. It is, I feel like my life's calling, honestly. And that's wild to say because you don't make money at drag. You really don't. But being visible in the community and just at Pride this weekend too, I walked in the parade. I was featured in the local newspaper with a couple of quotes from the day prior with my children. And it is a privilege and an honor and a responsibility. I take it very seriously.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. See, even more stories. We're getting even more stories out of this. So sorry, I don't want to hog the Kleenex. All right, so I've saved the best for last. Okay, we're all pretty good, but these two, I love these two. I've known these two for a while. I actually met Tammy through former partners. She used to work with a former partner of mine. And when I called Tammy up and was like, hey, would you be interested in doing this? Like, just put it out there. I saw her posting about these bell-bottom jeans that she was making, and I was like, those things are really dope. Would you be willing to do this and contribute something to the show? And she's like, well, sure, yeah, but like, my kid is trans. And I was like, what? She goes, I thought you knew that. I'm like, I had no idea. And she goes, and not only that, but they're also an artist. And I was like, well, snap, okay, like hook me up, let's talk. So here they are. So I'm gonna throw it out to the two of you. Whoever wants to start can start. But just introduce yourself. Tell me what had you say yes to doing the show. And then tell me a little bit about the piece you created for the show, or pieces, because Tammy is an overachiever like me. All right, take it away.
Hi, my name is Unity. I use they, them, and he, him pronouns. And I'm kind of like a ceramicist, fiber artist, painter. I do a little bit of everything. I kind of just like to say I'm a creator, I make things. And when I was first like thinking about this show and like what piece I wanted to do, I was thinking about using a piece that I had just like painted a few months prior that was a self-portrait that I had not finished from like 2 or 3 years ago and then finished it now, which was a really interesting like dive into like my consciousness about my own perception of myself and how it's changed pre-T and now being on hormones for like 3 years, something like that, almost 4. But then I started like, just thinking about like me now, like what does gender affirming care and what does like dysphoria come from like for me as an artist and me as a person. And for me, it's like people's perception of me, like what I think their perception of me is my dysphoria. So, or at least where a lot of it comes from. So when I made this piece and I got the idea from it, which if you go see it, it's Can You See Me Now? It's this crazy surrealist like body face thing with all these eyes on it, is me taking your perception of me back, is me looking at you and daring you to look away and like see me as me and who I am and my identity. And that's, I feel like it speaks for itself in its own way. I'm really proud of how it came out. It's really pretty and hazy and like, you drift and you look around all the different spots on the canvas, and I'm just very happy that I think it evokes exactly what I wanted it to. It's, punk, like, look at me, like, don't you dare look away. Like, think about how important gender affirming care is to everybody. Like when you see something on the news, like think about the trans people in your life. Think about the people in your life who have had like breast cancer and had to go and get a breast reduction or having to get other surgeries and stuff. Think about that. Gender affirming care touches all of us. And when it gets ugly, because it is getting ugly, don't look away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
Lots of snaps happening here in the room. That's
awesome.
right. You can't see the room.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, sorry, I'll give you some play-by-play as things are happening. But again, there's lots of snaps and head nod, like y'all are really striking some chords out there with the people that are in the room. Tammy.
Yes. All right. I am Tammy. And this is my child Unity. So that's one thing that's really cool. I guess the reason I decided to do the show was because Eli asked, and I was like, sure. I think having a trans child, and watching what the world is right now, and how hateful it is, it was really important to me to be a part of this show because everybody deserves to have what they need, and gender affirming care saves lives. So I wanted to be a part of that. And then it also made too much sense to also have Unity involved in it too. I didn't even realize that Eli didn't know that when Eli asked me. I was like, so you want Unity to do a piece too, right? Like that totally makes sense. So my piece is, I don't know, it's overalls with all sorts of interchanging outfits for like kind of a paper doll on the one leg. And for me, I guess gender affirming care has always been about fashion and wearing what you want to wear, being bold, being seen, being who you are. So that's really what my piece is. I called it Try On Freedom, but basically try on what you want to be. And I guess when Unity was growing up, I don't know. One of the big things is we let them dress how they wanted to dress, do what they wanted to do. They obviously didn't come out, and they didn't come out until they were in college. But I think Jeremy, my husband, and I always kind of knew that maybe Unity, they weren't attracted to. They didn't date at all through school, or maybe they did and we didn't know, but like we knew that there was something there. So, anyhow, that's my spiel.
Yeah, and I also just want to put an exclamation point on the overalls, because I actually asked Tammy if I sent her the two spirit feathers with the heart over the hand, if she would make a pair of jeans with that. And then she was like, yeah, but I have an idea for something else. And then that's when the overalls came into being. And they're just like, I think they're just truly amazing. And I'm sitting here, I'm looking at your little cases in the back. I'm like, those overalls need to have their own little case. Like, I'm gonna have to start going to the thrift store and looking for a little case to use for the overalls. But I'm getting so many people are just like, oh my God, these are so amazing. And they just truly are. But I'm gonna ask a question, because in the group of artists, you are the only two folks that are a parent and a child who are participating. And so I just wanted, if you would, can you share a little bit about the journey of when Unity did finally say, oh, hey, by the way, I'm this? What was that like for you, Tammy? Unity, what kind of a process did you go through before you told your parents?
Who starts? I don't know. I feel like I was already out to a lot of friends, like just in college, I didn't start college not out. Like I started college out of the closet. I was out of the closet day one when I moved into the dorms. And I think it was finding community, and people that I had not known like before that point, and finding support in college that made me feel like, okay, I feel comfortable like having that conversation with my parents. Like, I don't know. That was like, I wanted to feel secure elsewhere just to be like safe, I guess. I didn't think that my parents were going to be upset about it, but there's always fear coming out. I feel like doesn't get easier even if you've done it multiple times.
Well, when Unity, one of the things when Unity came out, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that I gave you my big breasts. That was a big thing. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened. I mean, we've worked a lot on getting pronouns correct, which, you know, is a struggle as a parent, when you've known them as a certain pronoun for, you know, the first 20 years of their life. But we work on that, you know, getting that right. And then you know, they started doing the testosterone, and I remember the voice change, which was a little jarring as a parent initially. Like we would go visit them, and they would, you know, we could see those changes happening. But for the most, I mean, I don't care. We didn't care. We did, but we didn't. Like, we want Unity to be who they are and to be happy. So, regardless of, you know, being whoever they are, trans, that was fine as long as they were happy, and being true to themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it is really that simple. But you think in the world that we're living in today, everybody has made it so complex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think the last time we did an interview together, and I haven't shared it out on Facebook yet. I still have some editing and stuff to do with it, but in all of the other things that I have to do in my life. But can you give me a little bit of an update? Because I interviewed them via StreamYard before the art show actually launched in Omaha. And at the time, Kansas had sent out letters to 1,500 trans folks telling them that their licenses were now invalid. No warning, no nothing. Like, could have gotten pulled over and their license would have been invalid. And so we had a conversation about that and what that was like and what was going on and what the atmosphere was in the area where you're at. And I know you're not directly in Kansas, right?
Oh, we're in
We're in
Kansas.
Kansas.
You're in Kansas, but not in Kansas City, but you're in an area though what was it like? Share a little bit about what it was like when that happened and what your thoughts were around that.
I feel like the most terrifying part about it is like that they have a list. Like, I don't know if like that's not like anyone else's first thought, but like they have a list of all the people who are trans in Kansas.
Yep.
And that's terrifying. Like, that still scares me because it's like maybe like now like people have had a chance to get a new license that is incorrect. Like, and they had to pay for it, which is also fucked up. But it's like they know who we are, and that's so scary.
Yeah. Was anybody in your circle directly impacted by that happening?
I had a few friends from college that had to get a new license, and yeah.
And so they had to get the license now with the incorrect gender marker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, that's one of the things that I worry about because all of my identity documents are now in order. I jumped through all the hoops they told me to jump through. My driver's license currently has an M on it. Like, everything that I have done and all of the money that I've invested in, you know, top surgery, that had to come out of my own pocket because at the time my work did not extend that type of care because they thought it would cost too much money and then they didn't know that anybody would need it. And I said, well, first of all, it's pennies on the dollar. And right now I'm the only person who needs it. So I can't imagine it's going to cost the university that much money. So they did finally change that, which is great. But I think some of the other things that are happening now, like, for example, my doctor that I started seeing back in 2015 basically was chased out of Nebraska. And without going into too much detail around it, there is a person who has detransitioned who is being paid lots of money to travel across the country. They're from Nebraska, travel across the country to talk about how when they were underage, their parents were forced to agree to get them top surgery, and now they can't breastfeed and blah, 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 whatever that. Needless to say, I'm a little bit angry with that person because my therapist was also chased out of Nebraska as a result. And there is a lawsuit pending. I will also say that one of the artists who contributed to the show went to high school with that detransitioner and basically shared their story a little bit with me in regard to how this person honestly was the driving force in that change. That they said they identified as trans. They wanted that. That's what they wanted. And it's interesting how if the money comes from somewhere, I guess you're going to detransition as a result and then ruin a bunch of other people's lives because that's what's happening. You picked that microphone up so fast, and I'm wondering if you have a comment. Okay, so we have someone in the room who's going to comment on this detransitioner.
So with detransitioning, there are people who genuinely do end up detransitioning, and that's totally understandable that you realize that gender is not for you. And that's cool. What frustrates me is very similar to what frustrates you in that they are usually the ones who drove their transition along themselves. And it is usually some kind of, the reason they got into it is very different than the reason someone like Eli or I or anyone else really who doesn't detransition is getting into it. And the most frustrating part for me is that it is really such a small percentage of the trans community that detransitions. And the trans community is already such a small percentage of the population that, of course, there's one or two very well-known detransitioners who are making the rounds. I mean, we see this with the anti-trans protests all the time, where it's a couple of people coming in to lobby for legislation in our state who don't live here or there or wherever. And yeah.
Abs, do you have anything to include in that conversation or any comments in regard to hands off? No.
I'll be political, I always do.
Yeah.
I'll say a comment.
As you should.
Go ahead, Abs, if you wanted to say something or
After.
no. Okay, so Ren's gonna go.
I was just going to add to that, like, when we think about what trans means, it's like in movement, it's change.
Yep.
Transformation.
It's a journey.
So we don't have to think about gender as something that is fixed ever for anyone. And you can always change it no matter what, right? So
Yes.
the whole concept of detransitioning, even just the way that it's framed, is so harmful because it doesn't recognize that we don't have to be in a fixed state. Actually, none of us are ever in a fixed state, right?
Yeah. I love that you said that because when I first started my transition in 2015 and going through like the process that I had to go through in regard to like, what kind of man am I? Like, I don't know if I even know how to be a man. Like, what does that mean exactly? Because what I do know about men, I don't really necessarily like or care for because they're kind of gross. And so there was a part of me that was just like, how do I figure that out? And thankfully, I had a friend who introduced me to the New Warrior Training Through Mankind Project. And he just reached out to me and said, hey, he goes, I have something for you. And I can't tell you what it is. You just have to trust me. Well, I knew this guy. I'd known him for like 20 some odd years, probably almost going on 2.5 decades. And I was like, okay, can you give me sort of what an idea of it is? And he goes, just know that the questions that you're kind of putting out there, because if you're not already following me on Facebook, I pretty much put everything out there. I don't care. I am public about all of it. I have said all along, if you have questions and you genuinely want to learn, I am happy to answer those questions for you, because I believe that sometimes if you Google something, you're going to get the wrong answer. And so I would rather have you get the right answer than get the wrong answer. And so he says to me, he goes, well, it's an experience. It's a weekend adventure. And it was. And through that experience, I realized I'm actually already the man that I want to be. I'm already the man that I want to be. And it's interesting because out of that weekend, I had immediately called my partner, because you go into the weekend and they're like, take your phones away. And I didn't know that was going to happen. And I was in this new relationship and I was like, oh my God, my partner is probably freaking out, wondering why I'm not connecting with them. And they were concerned because like I'm newly trans and how are these men going to be on this weekend? And what, like they were like, I just had to kept saying to myself, he's okay. He's okay. He's okay. So I come out of the weekend and I call and I'm just like totally sharing all of these things that I saw for myself. And my partner sends me a song by Alanis Morissette. Called In Honor of the Vulnerable Man. And she said, she goes, this is you. And I'm kind of emotional about it because I was trying to remember this song like a month and a half, 2 months ago. I couldn't remember. I was like, what was that song? And I'm messaging them like, what was that song? And literally as I'm driving here today on my iTunes playlist, that song, Half Hour Out of Town, rotates on. I have 888 songs on my playlist. So what are the odds? And I just hit repeat and I listen to it for the 30-minute drive into the city and remember, like, I am the man that I am. And I've had grown men, cis men, who have heard my story come to me after I talk and say, I wish I could be a man like you. And one of the reasons why I'm sharing that story is because there's a man in the room today who was on my weekend. And without going into a lot of detail about what happened, I got to choose that man to be my parent, my father. And he received me as Eli. And we have been friends ever since. So I'm just so grateful to you, Scott, and thank you so much for being there that weekend, for holding space for me to become, letting that me out. Like I didn't have somewhere to go. Like transition isn't about getting somewhere. Really, for me, it was all about going inside, finding that person, and then allowing that person to be free. That person at 5 years old who was told to put his shirt on before he went outside because he's not a boy. And I put my shirt on and I became the invisible boy. And it took another 45 years for me to find him again. So, like this whole show, like every single piece, one of our MKP brothers did the mask. And he did the mask on a trash can lid because he said, I used to feel like a piece of trash. That shield, that's now his shield, right? And it's a literal cast of his face that he put on that shield. And I mean, I just am so grateful to all of the folks that were involved in the show. And I know we've been talking here for almost an hour. Abs, did you have anything you wanted to share before I went off on that tangent? You're also great because you allow me my tangents.
And tangents you shall have, Eli. No, I really want to extend my sincere gratitude for not only inviting me to be a part of this show, but for organizing it in the first place. Through this creation process and the display process, I have, met more people in my community and communities elsewhere. Hello. And it's so beautiful that art continues to bring people together in such valuable ways. So thank you. And thank you everyone who participated and who's there.
Thank you, Abs. Appreciate that. Tammy, Unity, anybody got anything to toss out there? Comments? Okay. I think what I'm going to do is, so there's a microphone over here to the left, to your right, on a stand. If anybody has a question for us, if you want to just go ahead and jump up there, we would be happy to, and that's so that the people online can hear you ask a question. So anybody want to ask a question before I keep going? Okay, Ren's going to ask one. Ren doesn't have to get up though.
I don't know how to work this.
If you rest it on your chin, we'll be able to hear you better.
I'm gonna try to articulate this. Something we talk a lot about around here is how colonialist society wants to fool us all into thinking that we're separate from each other, right? And something that's really striking about this show is that I think it breaks down a lot of the barriers between cis, trans, genderqueer people. And I mean, I know I've experienced that myself where I'm like cis people don't get it, or whatever, and feeling like that sometimes. So I'm curious to the both cis, genderqueer, trans artists involved in this. How have you all experienced bridging that gap together? Anybody has anything to share about that?
Anybody online want to take that one on? Jump in there. And then Pave will
Probably.
will follow you.
Pave's right.
Abs is thinking. Is that Abs tap their head thinking? Okay, so Tammy, Unity.
Yeah, I would just say that it's been a really beautiful experience to be in this show and as a cisgender with everybody else. I don't know. It's an honor for me. And I've also just recently commented that I feel like if we had pride and the level of energy 12 months a year, that the world would be such a happier place.
Say that again. Snap, snap in the room. Let's hear it. Pave.
So the question was about bridging the gaps between like cisgender understanding and transgender understanding. And for me, with the masculine side of the experience, what has resonated the most between myself and bonding with cisgender men? Because that's something I've always struggled with growing up. I was raised by 2 women. My mother and grandmother raised me. I had very few male models in my life. And coming into adulthood, coming out as a man and going forward with that, what I've learned is that understanding toxic masculinity's effects on cisgender men from the trans perspective and seeing where my own understanding of myself is different from the programming that y'all have growing up. And the permission, so to speak, to stay emotional, to stay vulnerable, to stay expressive, even express femininity while still remaining a man and masculine, and just unapologetically. And that's where I start. because when I start there, I carry the confidence behind me. I've been told, that it's almost threatening sometimes with how confident I can be in those spaces. But at the same time, I've been very blessed, and I will acknowledge this very directly, that I've passed very well after medical intervention. And not everyone can say that, so it is my privilege to be able to come into cis male spaces unseen for a moment. Only a moment, though, because I do make it very clear eventually that no, I'm trans and I just started life this way. So, I'm still doing this man thing, but I think I'm doing an all right job. And 9 times out of 10 people agree. So I guess I'm doing okay. But that's kind of where it is for me with that. And with the female side of it, I get to say things like, yeah, I spent the first 30 years of my life living as a woman. So here I am to, discuss childbirth, discuss menstruation. I never experienced menopause, so to speak, but testosterone and second puberty is pretty similar. So it's a matter of understanding the gender theory from experience mostly for me. I'm not exactly educated, it's all experiential. But it seemed to resonate, and from there, we're really not that different, y'all,
Yeah. I also, Fran, I wanted to circle back around to the comment that you made, because I think it's really important to also realize that if we allowed our children to explore their gender in the first place, instead of forcing them into some stupid little box, I think the world would be a much more beautiful place to live in. Because I meet young trans kids all the time that will say, initially they'll say, I'm non-binary, and they'll try on they, them pronouns. And then the parent will just finally get used to the they, them pronoun. And all of a sudden the trans kid says, no, actually I'm a boy. Or no, actually I'm a girl. And these parents will come to me and be like, I am so confused. And I'm like, what are you confused about? And they'll say, I just got used to they, them pronouns. And now I'm going to switch over to the other side of this. And I said, what's really interesting is that in my experience, most non-binary trans kiddos, most, not all, actually are testing your waters. It's less about them and more about you. And I will also say this. Even at the tender age of 50, coming out as trans, beginning my transition, 3 years into my transition, it dawned on me why some people might choose to detransition. And it had absolutely nothing to do with how I really saw myself. It had everything to do with what Unity was expressing earlier in their piece, how you all saw me. Now, I want to tell you a very interesting, hopefully short story, right? So I'm a native guy. I'm first generation, born off the reservation, Menominee Reservation. My mother was born there in 1945, Lilyville. There's a piece of art in the show that a friend of mine commissioned of my mother for me. And I've decided that no matter what I do in my life, that piece will always show up there. And so that's why she's in the show. But the artist who did it also did the 2 pieces, the castle from the J.K. Rowling books and the unicorn. So anyway, I got a little off track there for a minute. Back on track. So as a native man, the irony is, when I was young, I hated my long hair. I railed against my long hair. I argued with my mother every day about my long hair. And when I was about maybe 10 or 12, Mom said to me, you need a haircut, right? A trim. And I heard her call the cut and curl. For those of you who might remember the cut and curl, she called the cut and curl lady on the phone and said, I'm sending my kid down and to get a trim. And I had hair like down to my behind. And I'm like, and my mom gives me the money and says, go down, because, they had been letting us walk down to the corner store and, the grocery store for whatever. And so I go down there and I walk in and I announce to the woman, cut it off. And she says, I think I need to call your mom. No, my hair, cut it off. So she begrudgingly cut my hair to like here. And I have a picture of myself with this haircut. And I mean, I walked out of that salon, I was puffed up. Like, I was just like, oh yeah, right? Short hair. It's amazing. I get home and my mother just lost it. And like bawling, lost it. What did you do to your beautiful hair? She, instead of yelling at me, picks up the phone and calls and just gives that woman like everything in her. She was not happy. But I tell you that story because what's interesting to me is that I couldn't be a boy, but I could be a tomboy, right? So there was a little bit of that pushing the envelope in that way. So this past weekend, I just went up and participated in the first ever Two-Spirit powwow at the Menominee Powwow. A beautiful experience. Like, I actually, through an organization that Renee and I are both familiar with, created ribbon pants. I made my own ribbon pants. I made a head roach through another organization in Omaha that are all trying to help people recapture culture and tradition. And so I went up there and had that to wear and danced in my own regalia at 60 for the first time. I've been up there for the powwow many times prior and have even danced because my mom used to drag us out there in our street clothes and say, it doesn't matter, just get out here with me. And you get one of my cousins is here today, by the way. She drove in from Cedar Rapids because she's just freaking awesome. But she used to drag us out there and just say, hey, you're going to dance. Come on, it's in you. The dance is in you. Because she would always go out there and dance. So, but I'm there for this weekend and I'm hanging out with one of my other cousins and I love him. I'm going to tell you this story, but I don't mean it in a bad way, okay? I don't. It just illustrates a point that as trans people, we're constantly processing through shit. Right? Constantly. He has watched my transition over the past 10, 11 years happen in real time. He has seen me in person a couple of different times in that time period. And I go up there and I call him, hey, I'm in town. What are you doing tonight? Because I was in a day early. And he's like, oh, well, I got a buddy here and we're going to go and have some fish. We're going to the fish fry. And I was kind of laughing because I'm like, well, I'm not really a big fan of fish, but okay. I was like, all right, I'll come meet you. And he's like, okay, cool. So he sends me the address and I go up there and we're sitting there, we're talking. And his friend is like, hey, it's nice to meet you. And he's using the right pronouns with me. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. And then like halfway through the conversation, something happens. And all of a sudden my cousin says something, but he's calling me she. And I'm like, the first one I let go. I was like, oh, maybe it was just nice. I'm just going to leave it. And again, I'm not saying this. I'm not angry with him. I love him. He's such an amazing human. And I know that it's a brain thing, right? Regardless, I know that it's a brain thing. So we're talking a little bit more. And even his friend is like he made a comment. And I almost I felt like he might have specifically done it to kind of make my cousin think about what he was saying. Because he's like, well, he just said. And I'm like going, okay, so he still sees me as man, right? And I'm just like, I'm sitting there, I'm like looking at myself, because I'm like, okay. Anyway, so we're going along a little bit more, and then my cousin says something else, and then again says she, and I was like, he. And it totally tripped him up. And he was like, it took, you could almost, if you could just hear his head saying what it was saying, it was like cranking to a stop. Awkward moment. And I went home and I posted about it. And again, not out of any sort of anger or frustration. I mean, I have been called the angry trans man because I'm a person of color. And if I could just chill out and not be so mean about it, like who cares if somebody gets your pronouns wrong? If you're such a man, you should be able to take it. Like some of the things I've had to go through. But I'm sitting here pondering this about my cousin, and a couple of other cousins saw my post and said, well, you know, I had a rough time in the beginning. And I'm like, I know you did, but we talked through it, right? We got through it together. Anyway, so I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next day and I'm thinking to myself, you know what I think people think? When I say I'm trans, they think I'm a man transitioning to a woman.
Yes. That's me all the time.
And I was like, oh, so maybe I should just stop saying I'm trans. Well, no, that ain't happening either. But again, like this show and all of this art is about that exploration. It's about us being able to say, hey, I can do whatever I want. I can wear whatever I want. These are not men's glasses because they're on my face. They don't miraculously become women's glasses if Renee puts them on because Renee identifies as a woman. They just don't. But we've gendered everything. We literally have razors for men and women. Like this t-shirt. We have cuts of t-shirts for men and for women. This button down that
Branded as a woman's button.
you're wearing a blouse.
Apparently, yeah.
You're wearing a blouse. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it's like, to me, I think it's highlighting the absurdity of it all. It is. And it is. It's all made up. And I will say, the other thing that I think is interesting is Native people who don't know me, Native people who are strangers to me. When I go and I'm in their space, like for example, I'm at the Menominee Casino because that's where I was staying, and I go to this little like cafe grill area in the casino because now the restaurant is not open. Like I was so sad. I'm like, I think they're only open for dinner. My cousin's like, what? Because we used to go to that restaurant. Like I was looking forward to getting my breakfast. Well, now you got to get it at the little grill. Anyway, I walk up and I'm like laughing, talking to the woman. And even this morning, I'm wearing this shirt, you know, and she's like, oh, hey, good morning, brother. Walks around. And I'm just like, wow, how is it that natives just get it right? Even with my long hair. I answered the door the other day to I knew it was a sales guy, but I was like, what the heck? I'm here, I'm recovering from hand surgery. I'll give him 5 minutes of my time. Because I used to be in sales and I didn't want to be rude. But I opened the door and after he called me ma'am twice, I was like, dude, you just lost any opportunity to have a conversation with me. But I look just like this. So what is it, right? I don't know. How many cisgender people walk out of the house every day and go, I wonder if people are going to misgender me today? They just don't. So, anyway, that was, Renee, did you have something to say?
I misgendered.
Oh,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Okay, so we were having this conversation.
Yeah, we were.
Holly and I coming over, and it doesn't matter. I think it's just because it's my height, and I'm big. I'm this big Indian woman, right? But anywhere I go, if I'm not dressed feminine in appearance, and I'm wearing my sweats and all that, and they'll just automatically call me sir, you know? And then they look at me and go, oh, sorry, ma'am. And then, my kids think it's the funniest thing, We'll go to the drive-through, I'm ordering, and then they'll say, well, thank you, sir. And then the kids are laughing again, and I go, well, hey, if I'm a sir, all right, I'm gonna live with that, But I feel like, this whole thing, like what you're saying, it is really all made up.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I guess because I'm getting old now, and I feel like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Why, if somebody identifies as a woman, then they are a woman. That's how I see it. If someone identifies as a man, then they are a man.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sit there and be like, well, you used to be a woman, I'm not gonna sit there and do that, because to me, that's like so disrespectful.
Mm.
And that's, I guess, behind a native teaching, the native teachings that we have. We're all about respect, right? And we're not going to, take that upon ourselves to, I guess, misgender or misidentify or any of these things, because now somebody has told us who they are. Okay, therefore, for me, it's like, that is who they are. They just told me that is who they are. Okay, I'm not gonna be sitting here trying to go, no way, you won't hear me or I think natives who have this worldview about how we walk on this earth, right? It's our identities to begin with, and that's a whole different discussion. I don't want to go down that road. But our identities can be in today's society, and I'm talking about the non-native society. Identities are so they're argued over and over,
Mm.
and I'm so sick of it, right? But beyond that, I'm a mother. I have 4 children. 2 of my children are trans.
Mm.
And do I feel like, they're not, that's unnatural, they're not my children? No, I don't. They're my children. I love them no matter what. And to me, I'm the safe space that they have in this world. So therefore, all the trans people that I'm meeting are also going to be in my safe space,
Mm.
right? That I'm creating wherever I go. So, and for any person, whatever their identities, their spiritual beliefs, whatever, however they walk on this world, that's what we're taught. We're supposed to be respectful of
Mm.
anyone's, however they're choosing to walk here.
Yeah.
That's not for me to decide. So, but anyway, going beyond that, when we're listening to all the things that are happening and seeing it, it's kind of like, to me as a native person, I'm just like, this is just way too much, and I understand why our young people are up against so much and they're under so much stress. So why do we make it harder?
Yeah.
Why not make these safe spaces so everybody that's coming in knows that they're welcome, knows that they're in a good safe space, and they can actually go, I can breathe because I can be myself.
Yeah.
Right? So that's to me, that's what sacred spaces are. Okay,
No,
thank you.
beautiful, 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 beautiful. Thank you so much for those wonderful words. Anybody have a question? Go to the microphone. Oh. Oh. There's a question in the room. I would try to turn this camera that way, but I think I have too many cords connected to it.
Question, you just made me think when you said, are you native skin? But it made me think of like natives and identity themselves. Like what is native identity? And it's such that could be its own panel, right? Like, what quantum, are you enrolled? Are you on risk?
Mhm.
So I think just identity politics for natives, maybe that's
I mean, you're not wrong. That's 100% why as well. I mean, that's why I will meet other urban Indians who are not connected to their culture and who are still very colonized in their mindsets. And they're just like, they're like mind blown when they start to talk to me or have conversation with me about who I am. And I know I've gotten to the point in my life where I realize their mind being blown doesn't have anything to do with me. And anything that they throw my way is merely a projection of what they are yet to see for themselves. And I got to tell you, it has taken me a while to get to the point where I can see that. Even around people that I've trusted for many years, when they kind of go a little off the rails, in remembering that that is a projection. That doesn't have anything to do with me, and I might excuse myself from the conversation, take a little break, and return back to it later. And if I feel like something needs to be addressed, I'll address it. But I think that's the other thing. I think about our young trans kiddos today and what they're having to experience and endure. You know, I was around when Don't Ask, Don't Tell was happening. I was around when we were afraid to go and walk in pride parades. I was around when companies didn't fly rainbow flags. And so, you know, I learned to hide myself and I learned to hide other things for a long time. And I had to do a lot of work in therapy to get over some of the ways in which I harmed myself as a result. So, all right, so we're going to wrap up. We're going to get ready to wrap up. It's about time. I'm going to throw it back out, though, to Abs first. Abs, is there anything that you want to share with us? Or, you know, I know you folks online have been really great about just listening and not jumping in, although I should have told you you were always welcome to do that. But just go ahead and take some time, Abs, and close us out for the folks in the room. And I am going to turn the computer around so you can see all the people, all the beautiful faces that are here in the room.
Oh, hello everyone. Yeah, going back to, I was thinking a bit about bridging the gap, my internal to the external world, and so what kept coming up for me was education. I recognize that I am in a position where I can educate people, so I do. I'm a teaching artist, so I go around all over Omaha to lots of different communities, and I teach creativity workshops, from kids all up to I work at I go to a retirement facility, so a wide variety of people. And honestly, at first, when people would question my gender, or say, "What does that mean?" I would get so offended, and that's just me. Um, it it was just invalidating. But then I don't know, something flipped when my dad was asking me questions, and he just wanted to understand the beauty behind it, what it means to me. And after I was able to speak of it in with a non-judgmental person, right? It shifted. I was able to explain that I it's not a gender, it's a lack of gender, but at the same time, it's all genders. That's how I experience it. And I realized that I was waiting to accept myself. Um, so after that, I don't know, I just realized that people have questions and they don't always know who to ask them to. So I in my position of teaching all these people, questions come up. of what does that mean when I say my pronouns are they them, and I'm able to explain it to them. And like kids, they don't mean any harm when they're asking questions, but I'm able to explain it to them, and at the end, you know, they they get it. um, they just inherently get it. And even at the retirement home I've worked with, they may not fully understand, why, but they um, are willing to, they want to, give the respect back. Um, so I don't know. I think the education, it's not a position that um, is always comfortable for me, but I think it's important for the community as a whole. Um, yeah, so and obviously I'm still navigating that every day, you know, where I'm at and how best to relay that information. But yeah, yeah. Sorry, I feel like I rambled. I don't know if I got anywhere, but yeah.
There's people in the room saying it was a good ramble.
Yeah.
So they liked it. So it's okay. I know it's kind of hard to be online and capture the essence of what's happening in the room. And I know I'm a very eye contact person, and so I can tell when people are resonating with what I'm saying. So I totally get it, Abs. Yes, they're resonating with you, Abs. So snaps all over. How about Tammy and Unity? Anything you would like to say or share, or anything come up for you as you've been talking?
We can't hear anything, just so you guys know.
Oh no.
I was back to your phone.
There was a phone that was connected, so you can't hear anything? No. Oh.
This one's
We
gonna die.
yeah, we should wrap up anyway.
All right. Yeah. Mr. Powers, can you just text them quick and just apologize for the loss of sound? I think they were hearing it through the phone sound. And somehow, I don't know how Abs is being able to hear.
I haven't
but
been able
they
to hear
can.
Tammy for about the last half hour, so I'm not sure.
Oh, so sorry, darn it. Okay, we're sorry.
That's okay.
All right. Darn it. All right. Well, you're gonna close us out here, or do you have anything else you want to say or add to this conversation, or?
Yeah, one last thing.
Okay.
I wanted to reiterate a huge and honest thank you to each and every one of you for being here, present, either in the chat, online, or over here. And I don't know if Jack can hear me or not, so I'm just gonna. That's all that's the only word I know in sign, but it's a good one to know. It is very important these days to know in a very real way, a visible way, that transgender people are supported, that gender should not be rather such a weird thing for our government and powers that be to fix it. I don't want to care this much about my gender, y'all. I just want to have fun with it. I don't want to justify it, and I know nobody else really wants to either. So, in that spirit, I adore that we are here meeting each other where we are at, each and every one of us where we come from. Thank you very much for being here and joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, so if there's no questions, I'm gonna let y'all go, and I'll stop talking because I could talk all night. But I won't. Thank you so much. And also, actually, I do want to say thank you to Scowis, thank you to David, our tech guy, and Marie for running the camera, and Renee, again, thank you so much for coming here and blessing us today. And the Great Plains Action Society is just an amazing organization doing incredible work. And the fact that they reached out and they're like, so, we have this new space. It's not quite ready yet, but how much will it cost for us to bring the show here? And I'm like, nothing, $0. And they're like, okay, well, can you bring it here? And I'm like, well, what works for you? Like, how about you? So Callis was like, okay, we're not quite ready, but we'll be ready. When are you gonna bring the art? And as I pulled up that day, she's like, we're almost done. But they have just been amazing. I also just want to give a big kudos and applause to Ren, because Ren actually helped hang every single piece of art over in that room. And I drew a map and then I kind of went around and did some things, but Ren, really, thank you so much. I cannot even express to you how much it meant to me to have you there, and you just were like, what do you want? How do you want? Okay, yep, good. Yeah. So I just really appreciate you. So.
Back at you.
All right, thanks again. And thank you all for coming here again, for driving here from Dubuque, from Cedar Rapids. I just really appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks everybody. Thank you, Eli.
Yes.